did kind of. Everyone looked like their characters almost.
Yeah.
It was kind of weird. Kind of high, kind of weird.
John C.
Reilly looked like this character from 30 Rock, and well, looked like himself, I suppose.
Yeah.
No, it's a character.
Wait, Jane Lynch didn't look exactly like Jane Lynch.
No.
She's a little younger.
Yeah, a little younger.
A little hotter.
John DiMaggio was in it.
Yeah, I heard
John DiMaggio.
I don't know what character he was though.
Beard Papa?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know who that is.
Okay?
Yeah.
I'm your beard papa.
Beard.
I am so delirious right now.
Just let him sleep. Alright. Hey everybody, welcome back to That Soul, the show that allows a group of unchecked egos to debate all things geek. I'm your host, Jordan Wade. This episode we will be discussing a few of fall's bigger film releases in Wreck-It Ralph, Cloud Atlas, The Man with the Iron Fist, and Skyfall. With me this week I have KelleyCK.
Hey there.
Journel.
Hey.
And Mike Fan.
Who are you saying has a big ego?
That'd be me.
Oh, okay, just checking.
Who has the biggest ego?
This guy.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to love your job when no one else seems to like you for doing it.
You're just the bad guy who wrecks the building.
No, I'm not. But here's the thing. I don't want to be the bad guy anymore.
All right, well, without further ado, we'll go ahead and jump into it. The first one we're going to talk about today is Wreck-It Ralph, and I'm going to launch it to you, Journel. I know you were really looking forward to this one after the first couple of trailers.
I was so pumped about it. I mean, it's when I saw the trailers, I was like, it's a Disney movie doing for video games. It's like what Shrek did for fairy tales. I was like really, really pumped about it. A kid growing up in the '80s, it was everything that you wanted to see come to life from your own imagination. Ken and Ryu go off and have a root beer in the middle of the movie.
Tappers, right?
Yeah, over at Tappers, and it's funny because like in the movie too, it peels back just a little bit just to see the video game format of it. But me, I was really, really pumped that it was a movie that was catered to video gamers, but it was also a kids movie. Oh, at least what I saw from it. So I enjoyed it. I saw that opening weekend in 3D.
Well, obviously, like the film does a lot of, and we saw in the trailers, there's a lot of cameos from different video game characters and whatnot. And Kelly, do you feel like there's enough there for the hardcore gamer to get something out of it? Because I know a lot of cameos kind of are in that trailer, but is there still enough there throughout?
There's still enough there, and I think they did a good job of satisfying, the hardcore gamers that were going to get all the references, but then making it a good film overall that people who weren't really into video games could go and watch it, adults and kids alike. I mean, it really hit all bases, and that was really good to see, because I was kind of worried that it would just be bogged down with only references to video games, but I think they had a good mix. There's enough to make you excited, but you didn't feel like there wasn't enough in there for you, so I think they did a good job.
What a moron. Hey, genius! It's a jawbreaker! You're never gonna...
And Mike, I know I kind of touched on the film. I know you enjoyed it as well. Do you think it was? I mean, Journel kind of said it was for everybody. I mean, were there specific points in the film where you felt like there was humor that was geared toward a little bit of everybody?
Well, yeah. Most critics say that about a lot of animated movies. The phrase is it's a movie that's made for kids and adult, and this is the most excellent example I've ever seen in my life. They had codes from Konami up, down, left, right, A, B, A, B.
Secret area.
Right. So there's great moments when we saw the Oreos marching.
Oh yeah.
And they were saying Oreo.
Yeah.
From Wizard of Oz.
The
and
Laffy
stuff
Taffy
like
coming down and laughing.
Right. And they got the original voice actors for Ryu and Ken to be in it, and
Sonic the Hedgehog too.
Sonic the Hedgehog makes an appearance.
Yeah, I liked the ring part where they
at the very end.
Why do I fix everything I touch?
And also the adult humor in there was spot on. It's hilarious, and I questioned some of it. When King Candy, played by Alan Tudyk, he was hit with Wreck-It Ralph hit him with a bunch of glaze to stop him, and he's like, "Oh, it's okay, I just got glazed." I was like, "Whoa! Did that just happen?" Maybe my mind's in the wrong spot for that movie, but.
Did you look around the theater? Did anyone else catch that?
Yeah.
Was that just me?
Yeah, and then Wreck-It Ralph picked up the sour ball
Yeah.
and stuck in his mouth and wish and wash around. It's like, oh, please don't put me in your mouth again. I was like,
And it's interesting you bring that up because Pixar has been known in the past for kind of having the skirting the line and like having some subtle adult humor that people can pick up on. I mean, Toy Story, Ratatouille, all these films have things that maybe are going to go over kids' heads.
What's that?
A medal. I earned it in Hero's Duty. It's not that kind of duty.
I bet you really gotta watch where you step in a game called Hero's Duty.
And so it's kind of refreshing in a year where it seemed like Brave was kind of more on disappointing amount of things.
right, they dropped the ball this year.
Right.
I guess.
I mean, it was a good-looking film, but the story just wasn't there. And for me, it's surprising to think that we haven't really seen an animated film that revolved around gaming before this. I mean, gaming's been around for 30 years, almost 40 years, and to think that it's only coming out now, and even some people are saying that it might be the greatest video game movie ever made. I mean, Journel, what do you think?
Yeah, well, that scale is way large. I mean, if you're going from the actual video game adaptations to movie, I mean, there's a lot of horrible ones and a few golds over there. But if the last video game reference to a movie that I could think of is The Wizard, and that's Fred Savage way back when he was a kid, and I maybe watched it like twice when I was like 12.
Yeah. No, I remember watching, getting all excited about it because that was when that was a big reveal for Super Mario Brothers 3.
Oh yeah.
It's sad to think that that's like the last video game film that seemed to have a great cultural relevance before this, and I think that's why people were excited about Wreck-It Ralph. And
they said it as a video game rather than being a video game coming to life.
Right, and that's an important thing.
Well, what I also thought was smart was the fact that the main story was basically kind of a spoof on other games. It wasn't an actual reference to a game, which I thought was smart, just kind of surrounding it with those little subtle hints. But overall, it was like kind of a throwback to Donkey Kong with Wreck-It Ralph, and then like the
Rampage with the building being destroyed.
Yeah, and then the
Mario
racing
Kart was
game.
basically
Mario
Sugar
Kart.
Rush.
No. This is that candy go-kart game over by the whack-a-mole.
And then the other game was like Halo 4 and Gears,
Right.
kind of put together. So I thought it was smart for them to do that, so people could go in and feel like they didn't have to know a lot about video games.
Right, because even people who are not familiar with gaming are going to be familiar with Halo and Donkey Kong and stuff like that.
because I saw it with a few of my friends who really don't play video games, and they still love the film. I mean, they didn't get the subtle hints, but overall they still loved it. So I think that was really smart on their part.
So I think overall we all kind of had a positive experience with Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah.
Going back to what you said earlier, it's interesting that they did release it in this time period because my theory is basically they were waiting for that audience to grow up, and now was the right time to release it because now that audience is now adults with children themselves. So it's definitely something they could get into to watch and also bring their kids.
I almost want to say that it reaches almost to a third demographic. I don't have kids whatsoever.
That you know of.
Not in this state or in this country. But I still went to go see the movie to begin with.
Right.
And, I'm an adult, but more I'm an adult gamer. It's reaching to that platform and, this little platform over here all together.
Right, as soon as he saw the trailer, he called me. He's like, Mike, did you see it? I was like, just keep in your pants. Let's see if it's good. Like I said.
My pants on.
Did you?
Yeah.
On that note, so like I said, I think we all pretty much enjoyed Wreck-It Ralph.
Can't mess with the program, Ralph.
You're not going turbo, are you?
Turbo? No, I'm not going turbo. Come on, guys. Is it turbo to want a friend? Or a medal? Or a piece of pie every once in a while? Is it turbo to want more out of life? Yes.
I'm going to kind of change up things here a bit, and Cloud Atlas came out roughly in the same time frame. It was the first film from the Wachowskis, or the first film they directed since Speed Racer. And Kelly, I know you saw it as well as I did. What did you think? It's a very polarizing film. There's some people that are not liking it so much, and there's others that are absolutely loving it. Where do you fall on this?
I like it. I think I want to go and rewatch it. I feel like it's one of those movies like Fight Club or like The Fountain. I still don't understand that movie, but just one of those movies where like you need to watch it again to really.
I did. Noobs.
But I think I would rewatch it to get all the subtle nuances to really appreciate it overall. But it was stunning cinematography. I really loved. All the different characters they had playing throughout the film, and so I enjoyed it overall.
And of course, Cloud Atlas is based off a book of the same title, and it's one of those books that people kind of consider one of those unfilmable books. And really, the trek to get the film being made was sort of an interesting one.
Yeah, because I know when they were working on V for Vendetta, Natalie Portman just randomly, of course, she goes to Harvard, you know, she does everything.
Right.
So she gives them the book just to read randomly, and a year later they're working on the script, and then all of a sudden we have a movie. So I thought it was pretty interesting.
And being that it was, you know, considered unfilmable, that kind of goes with the film touches on 6 different narratives that go across 6 different time periods. Now they handled the production interestingly with 3 different directors. Obviously the Wachowski siblings, and they also brought in Tom Tykwer, who directed Run Lola Run.
Yeah, and it's very interesting to see that all 3 of them are credited equally throughout the for the film. I mean, that's very rare to see. I don't think that's happened too often within movies, so that was kind of interesting to see.
And do you think that their vision matched up together? I mean, when you're watching it, do you feel like I'm watching 3 different visionaries' visions?
I didn't at all, because I didn't know that until after I saw the movie.
Okay.
So I went into it not realizing that, and it was seamless to me. So I thought they did a really good job with that. But it'd be kind of interesting to see like who directed which parts. I'm not really sure about that. I don't know if they've ever talked about that.
So the movie wasn't really defined to which parts were directed, not like like 4 Rooms.
Right. No, and that's another thing that's interesting about the film is that, and that might be part of the tough sell for it, and the reason why it may have not attracted so many audiences. Because when you're seeing the trailer, you're like, there's 6 different stories going on. How are they going to do this? The worry for me going into it, they were going to split, because the book tells 6 different stories. My worry was that they were going to go this narrative, then this narrative, then this narrative, and it seemed like that would drag out for a long time.
Yeah.
Instead, they spliced it all up, and that sounds really confusing, especially in the beginning, because it kind of just throws pieces of all 6 films at the very beginning, and so you're like, oh man, I don't think I'm gonna be able to handle 6 different narratives going on at the same time. But they intelligently splice it together, and it makes sense. The flow goes along, and it continuously unveils different things throughout.
So it's spliced up, but it goes in order.
It does go in
each story.
The events from each story go in order. It's just that you're seeing piece by piece by piece.
Yeah, and it's just in the beginning.
Yeah, it's
you're
not
trying to catch
Prestige.
up.
You won't get confused.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah.
Which is why I say, like, once you rewatch it, you'll understand what's already going on. So I think it'll make a lot more sense to most audiences. But I do kind of worry with the fact that it's not getting as much, I guess, as many audiences as they would like. I think it's one of those Oscar-worthy films that always come out that major U.S. audiences don't really see, like There Will Be Blood or No Country for Old Men.
Right.
Get all the nominations, but they don't really get the numbers at the box office. So I feel like it's kind of one of those films.
I heard it in a dream. I was in a nightmarish cafe. Blaring, bright lights, underground and no way out. And the waitresses, they all had the same face.
Welcome to Papa Songs.
Well, the trailer does a tough sell for me. Like, when I saw the trailer, I'm not sure what's going on. I even asked you, is this about reincarnation?
Right.
And to some level, you said it was, right?
Yeah, they sort of, I mean, they don't outright say this is reincarnation, but they do reference the fact that these are souls traveling through time and stuff like that. So they're kind of going around it without offending anybody, but I don't think it's in a cheap way where it's like, whoa, 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 we don't want to step on anybody's toes. They're just like saying...
This is not Final Fantasy Spirits Within.
Right. Or like the end of Lost, where it's like, you know, all the religions are represented. But no, they go around it in a way to be like, without cheesing it up. And yeah, I mean, it's about souls traveling through time. And it's also really about human rights, because that's obviously something that the Wachowskis are in all their films. V for Vendetta is about human rights. The Matrix is about human rights. That's a theme that's present in all their films.
And you told me the souls transfer gender also, right?
Yeah, and that's also another thing I was gonna touch on, is that the cast is pretty much the same group of actors throughout all 6 stories.
Yeah.
But they're changing genders, they're changing ethnicities. Like, one of the stories takes place in Neo, Korea. And so suddenly there's only 1 member or 2 members in the cast that are Asian. The rest are, you know, white or black or different other different ethnicities. And so it's interesting to see these people play Asian characters. And I was wondering, do you think that skirts into the realm of being sort of offensive?
That's what I was going to ask everybody, because I've seen a few message boards. I've heard a lot of people kind of discussing, like, why is this okay when blackface isn't, and people saying, oh, it's yellowface, it's offensive. But I don't know if I said it.
We got not to offend anybody here.
Just go like this. Go hero for me just one time and see what happens.
But that's what, like, I was reading some message boards, and that's how they were referring to it. And I'm just wondering if you guys, everybody overall, kind of gets that sense.
What do you mean, you guys?
You guys.
Don't look at me.
overall, everybody
I see
here.
how this room is divided.
Yeah, I just now realized our
Like,
seating order
I would
just
only
now.
like
I see
your
what happens.
responses. So if you
I
can
didn't
give
choose
me
the sitting
those.
arrangement.
Not working.
Well, I'm not personally offended by any of that.
And I feel they do it. I think they do it in a decent
Respectful.
way.
Yeah.
Because
In a
it's not like
courtesy.
they're playing with like really bad accents. Like for the
Yeah.
most part, they're speaking in their native
It's
accent.
not like way back in like the 40s and 50s.
right, where they're like acting it up and hamming
Like
it up.
Charlie Chan.
Right.
I would like to see Tom Hanks do the Asian voice like from South Park. Yeah, the shitty walk guy.
Oh man.
Unfortunately,
Just him turn around with buck teeth and go, oh, hammer!
just that. That's all. And
I'm like, I'm buying. Here's my money. Take my money.
and cut away.
Yeah.
But
Go broke.
unfortunately, we don't get to see that. But I personally felt that Cloud Atlas was well done, and from what I hear, you felt
Yeah.
about the same.
I believe there is another world waiting for us, a better world. And I'll be waiting for you there.
I'm going to change up yet again, and I'm going to shoot this toward Mike. Another film that came out this month was The Man with the Iron Fist, and, you know, I know you put a lot of thought into it, and I kind of want to know what you thought about it.
It sucked. Don't watch it. I'm done here. That's pretty much it.
All right.
All right.
You said too much.
I already said too much. RZA is a horrible actor.
Yeah.
Like, and you remember when we did a fan fiction, like, who would you get to play in your X-Men movie? Because of course I'm not satisfied with the Bryan Singer X-Men films, and I'm like,
Is anybody?
there are people.
Well, he's coming back, too, and that's
He's
and
coming
I know
back.
you love that.
Yeah, I always said that I wanted Batista to be Colossus, and then this movie comes out, and you saw him in the trailer. He's practically like Colossus.
Right.
I was like, that's awesome. And then you told me that would never work. He's a horrible actor. You're right.
I warned you.
Because he basically has the acting range of Kristen Stewart. He had just the plain face
don't
the
be
whole
hard.
time.
There's good Kristen Stewart out there.
Name one.
It's in the picture.
The Runaways.
All right. That's the second one. Oh, you don't like it? Oh. That's because she, you know.
But no, you know, it's interesting and you bring up the RZA because he obviously directed a film and he starred in it, and it was sort of a passion project of his. And I know people were looking forward to it because here's a guy who's been a producer in music. He's been around the arts for a long time, and he'd been wanting to direct film. He'd been kind of flirting with it for a while. So he finally gets this project. I know for me, I was looking forward to it because it's interesting to see artists from other mediums come in and try
to influence it.
Because there's a certain level of ambition that you want to see, and unfortunately, it doesn't sound like it worked.
Well, this is what he did. He of course, you know, the Wu-Tang Clan is synonymous for liking kung fu films.
Right.
And so
it's in their name.
Yeah, you expect that he pay homage to it, and he does, but he does it to a T, to where nothing's innovative. Like the fight scenes were very bland. I didn't see anything that is too memorable. And what happens is he splits the story into three protagonists. Of course, himself as the man with the iron fist, and they had another character he's avenging his father, X-Blade, and Russell Crowe's character. And it's so diluted.
Russell Crowe was in this movie?
Russell Crowe was in it. He was a American with a gun with spinning blades on it. So when he pulls the trigger, he'll stab people and grind them and cut them in half.
I'm really sad I missed this movie.
Yeah, and Jamie Chung was in it, and she plays RZA's mistress, or not even mistress. She was the hooker at the Golden Dragon.
Cliche.
House. Yeah. And so the
that's
story's
more offensive than Cloud Atlas.
Yes, it was. It's just because he can't act, and then she, of course, barely could act.
I think this was like a favor deal.
It probably was. The fights were uninspiring, and the character stories were diluted. The guy that needed revenge for his father being killed, his fight took place off camera. You didn't see it, and you can see Quentin Tarantino's influences on the RZA, because you saw this over the head shot of the rooms, different rooms, and the camera pans to each one, and that's similar to what you saw in *Inglourious Basterds*. So
Kill Bill did the same thing.
Kill Bill also, like he drew some influence, and maybe it's a good or bad thing. I don't know. That's up for debate, but it was a lackluster film, and I was just expecting more. I guess that's partially my fault.
Right.
Because
it is your fault.
It is my fault. Because I was expecting something like Samurai Champloo, whether they do a mashup. of hip hop culture and
I think we're all sort of expecting that, especially
Yeah.
when you have someone like the RZA creating the film. You're
Right.
hoping that he can kind of infuse some hip hop style into it.
There's always that kind of weird love story between hip hop and kung fu.
Right.
So I mean, I think with this movie is that he played it to a T because I don't want to discredit to the RZA of what his medium is when it comes to movies, but I think what he liked is what he saw, and that's what he projected onto the movie altogether. So going into thinking that you're going to see a classic kung fu flick, if that's even a real deal,
right?
I think if it'd just be a cult hit as of it's a hip hop
niche audience,
niche audience.
Well, it doesn't sound like his initial effort was all that promising, but he does have a couple more films lined up, so we'll be on the lookout for what the RZA does next.
Right.
Power belongs to no one until it is seized through sex and violence.
Next film I want to discuss is Skyfall. Of course, James Bond is a long-established franchise, and it does have its die-hard fans. The last one was Quantum of Solace, came out in 2008. It was the follow-up to Casino Royale, which was well-loved, but Quantum of Solace kind of disappointed. I want to kind of shoot it to you, Mike. What do you think of Skyfall? Did it live up to the hype of old Bond, or is it kind of in the same world as Quantum of Solace?
It's in the same vein of Quantum of Solace. It's going for a more realistic approach, and it takes less influences from the previous Bond, but it pays homage to them. It does a lot of fan service. They got, I'm not going to spoil all of them, but they got the Aston Martin, the original one, back in there, and some of the key characters from the classic Bonds pop in unexpected places.
Welcome to the new MI6. I'm your quartermaster. You must be joking. Author PPKS 9mm short. Q. 007.
But what I think is interesting is Bond's evolution. And I think it draws a lot of influence definitely from Bourne, the Bourne series, because if you notice there's a trend in all the new spy movies, it's no longer about saving the world or saving this. It's brought it to a personal level. Mission Impossible 3 wasn't even about the main mission. It was about him trying to get his wife back. There was a rabbit foot, and you never knew what was in the rabbit's foot. It was something dangerous, that's all. But it brought it to an emotional level to where he had to go get his wife, and that was his main mission. And they did the same thing kind of in Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace, to where it's no longer about saving the world, but it was more about his vendetta for avenging the woman of the love of his life dying. But I mean, there's other influences also.
No doubt, the Bourne trilogy has been an influence on a lot of action films. But Kelly, you kind of noticed some other influences in a film from another big franchise that's come out recently.
And which I was going to ask you, Mike, just because I know you are such a big fan of Dark Knight Rises and just the whole series. But I did read an article where Sam Mendes mentioned that he was highly influenced by Dark Knight Rises in particular, but the whole series in general. He'd said it was a game changer for him, and he felt like it allowed him to take the series into different places that he wouldn't have before. And a lot of people liken the mood of Skyfall to Dark Knight Rises. What are your thoughts on that?
I didn't even notice it, but until we talked about it previously. Like, let's see some similarities here. The main villain, he
played by Javier Bardem, Tiago Rodriguez.
Yeah, great, by the way. Better Bond villain than the previous in Quantum of Solace.
Right. That's not really a high bar, though.
No, not really. He allowed himself to get captured, just like the Joker. He dressed in the cop uniform, just like the Joker.
Also, there's the elevator scene when Bond is trying to track down the assassin, with the neon lights and stuff like that. As he's going up in the elevator, the music kind of the score starts sounding like the Dark Knight score. And I mean, that's fine. And the Dark Knight the score of those films is influencing a lot of films, but it was very apparent just the timbre of the music was very much like something you would hear out of Dark Knight. And
also shot in China.
Also shot in China, yes. So,
but that's a different reason why.
But also, Javier Bardem's mannerisms were very much in the same vein as Heath Ledger's mannerisms, and also his character was a character that didn't really care about.
He wants to watch the world burn.
Right. He's not a man looking for personal glory. He's just wanting to wreck things. He's kind of an anarchist.
I do hope that wasn't for me.
But that is.
And I don't necessarily think that was a bad thing. I think it worked well in the world of Bond. But it's very hard to shake those influences when they're so apparent.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, Dark Knight has influenced so many movies after the fact. And now all the new superhero movies from DC, they want to go to that darker route, which I don't agree. But then again, you get Green Lantern.
Yeah, I mean, I agree in the sense that it's forcing people to step up their game with movies like that, and realizing that they can make a great film that has to do with, superheroes and, other characters like that. So I agree with that sense, but I thought it was interesting the way, I don't know if you guys heard about this, but the way that Daniel Craig got Sam Mendes and Javier Bardem to be in the film was basically just, he was at a party drinking with them, and he was just like, hey, you wanna be in this movie, or you wanna direct this movie? He was on, I think it was Jimmy Kimmel.
Job offers like that.
Yeah.
Why don't I hang out with Daniel Craig?
You need to get a production slot for that, but yeah, he just randomly asked Sam Mendes. He was down for it, and then Javier Bardem apparently had always wanted to be a Bond villain, so he was excited to do it. So that was funny.
That worked out well.
He got drunk and woke up and became a Bond villain. He's like, I don't remember signing this contract.
You've already kind of touched on that the nature of this film is more personal and more about, within MI6, but also beyond that, it's a very personal film for Bond. It's more personal than I think we've ever seen in any other Bond film.
Right. For the first time ever, you find the origins of Bond. I won't explain what it was, but it's very interesting that for the first time, you know where he came from. Mm-hmm. The first two films kind of give you a glimpse to why he's sort of a womanizer. I mean, the love of his life is gone.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's just sleeping from bed to bed for the hell of it.
I like when he just disappears and you just all of a sudden he's in the scene with the chick. I'm like, how did that work?
Yeah. All right. In the trailers, obviously he gets shot in the trailer and he falls off the train.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't even explain it. Somehow he's found
on a tropical beach.
On a tropical beach with a woman. He just slept with her. He's like, thanks for healing me.
Yeah.
Yes. He takes 2 pills and he takes a hike on the beach.
Right. Just hit it and quit it,
apparently that's a perfect medicine
Bond.
for Bond. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Bond in a nutshell. But yeah.
Well, this one also, it wasn't based off an original Bond book, right?
No, it's a completely original story. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Daniel Craig signed up for like 2 more.
He's got 2 more films.
And there's a possibility of rumors of who playing him.
Idris Elba.
Right. So it'll be the first black Bond ever. Idris Elba.
He's from The Wire.
The Wire. He was also in Prometheus. He was the captain of the ship.
Yes.
Okay.
And also in Takers.
He was in Takers, and he was the best part of Thor. He was the gatekeeper.
Oh, okay.
So he has his strong fans because of The Wire and
Luther.
Luther which is going on currently over in the UK.
Right.
So they are going to replace Daniel Craig for sure.
Well, 2 more Bonds. He's nearing 50 now, right?
Oh,
he's
so
44.
he's going to do the 2 and then they want to get.
Yeah.
So by the time they complete the second of the 2 films, he will be close to 50. So naturally, you kind of start looking for a replacement.
Yeah.
Right.
And with wanting to go with someone like Idris Elba, you start wondering, do we start looking at a timeline for these films? I mean, is it a continuity, especially with the direction they're going with this? I mean, Journel, did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was really, really confused about it because there was a lot of homage to the older Bonds. Mm-hmm. Plus, the internet played a whole big play to this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it showed. I'm thinking they're fleshing out the character that he's getting old.
Yes.
He got shot and he's having a harder time getting back into the swing of things, getting back into the mission. So, is this just? How I'm wondering is how is this placed with the other Bonds altogether? Is Bond just an ambiguous name, or is it the name of a character that transcends through different movies? Or I mean, because there's a huge history behind it. It shows in the movie.
Right, and I was thinking that before I went into this film, because in the last film they kind of set up that M, is a code name for mom, and so I thought, well, maybe James Bond is just a code name for the top, for it's along with 007, it's just another code name you give somebody. And in this film they kind of flirt with that too, with when the names are released on YouTube, you see their alternate identities and then you see their real names after it. And I'm thinking, well, maybe James Bond has a real identity, but by the end of the film we find out that his parents were named Bond and stuff like that. So I was sort of confused by that. So I don't know exactly where they're going, but it seems like
I think they're trying to pay homage and acknowledge that the previous Bonds did help it get to the point of where it is.
Yeah.
But they want to do their own thing, so it is technically a reboot. And I feel maybe he's the original Bond, and then after that, he passes on the name to whatever next agent takes it.
That's another possibility, but then of course we have the old Aston Martin in there too, and it's all confusing. And it's like, where is the chronological order in this?
So I'm just slightly confused when they drove up to his old manor. he had the word Skyfall on the brick or mortar up in the front. So how does that play with? Is that just the name of the place that he was living
That's the name
at?
of the manor. That's why I figured.
And so when they're doing the word association thing in the beginning, you just hear him say "done" after it, and I think that was a reference that he didn't want to think about it anymore because they're doing this word association game. He's like, I'm done with this game. You know, after they say Skyfall, because there's a lot of hurt and a lot of pain that's associated with it.
I was curious if his old lineage was his last name was Skyfall and the code name was Bond.
That's what I was concerned about. I was like, if his name is James Skyfall, I was like, I'm walking out of this theater. But it turns out it was his manor, and then later on you discover, I won't tell you how, but you discovered his real name, his last name is Bond.
Okay.
So it's definitive. His last name is Bond.
I missed that somewhere in the movie or something like that.
Yes, you did.
I did.
It's okay, Journel. Go watch it again.
Maybe
I will.
Maybe it's like Cloud Atlas, and the soul just migrates to people.
Ooh.
He's a monster.
Oh, my head's gonna cave in now.
Let's just create let's make a Cloud Atlas James Bond universe. I want
That's a mashup. That's fan fiction.
That actually makes more sense now.
Cloud Atlas versus James Bond.
Right. It could be
James
like 50
Bond.
Shades of Grey.
I don't even know where we're going now. Well, regardless, I think the future for Bond looks very bright. Right. I've liked what they did with Skyfall. It redeemed himself from Quantum of Solace. So I think Bond is back on track.
Who doesn't appreciate the occasional twist, Mr.
Bond. James Bond.
Well, that's all we have for today's episode. Feel free to follow us on Twitter at ultness and visit our website at ultness.com. Tune in next week when we discuss some of fall's biggest games in Halo 4, Black Ops 2, and Assassin's Creed. I'm Jordan Wade, and we'll see you next time on That's All.
So, some of the people that were in Wreck-It Ralph was it Alan Tudyk from Firefly was King Candy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
You remember when he came out for the first time? King Candy came out and he's like, "Here's sweets for everyone." I'm like, that's cannibalism.
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that.
That is sick.
Oh my goodness. He was a twisted
Yeah,
man.
that was a sick man. Just standing up.
What video game reference did you just lose your shit over?
Oh man, let me try to think of that.
Because obviously with the Metal Gear.
That was the one. Metal Gear.
Yeah.
I think that's the moment because nobody saw that coming. Like the mushroom gets flipped out, and it's like, okay, well that's kind of tame. And then suddenly it's like, oh my God, it's the exclamation point.
Yeah,
that. No other kid will get that but me.
And what's great is it followed right up after Tappers, and like Tappers, I was like, oh my God, this is so awesome.
Tappers.
You don't think that video games go?
Well, you're the only one laughing in the theater when what?
Yeah, I was like, ah, they did it, and then I heard no one else go,
That's
freak out. I'm like,
yeah,
oh, there's a generation lost.
I was giddy with that. Yeah.